Hi, I'm Marcy Freeman, and I've been an attorney for 32 years. I work for Decker Pool in Fort Worth, and I practice primarily in Parker and Tarrant counties here in north central Texas. I started making videos and writing blogs to provide you with information that might be useful to you now or sometime in the future. Disclaimer, the information in these videos is just that, information. It's not specific legal advice, and if you've got questions, I encourage you to talk to an attorney. So today we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the difference between facts and feelings and what the judge looks at when making decisions involving your children. Okay. So we all want the best for our children, but many times we're not able to agree upon what is best for our children. We each have beliefs or feelings about why we know best for our kids. Okay? And there's a difference between a feeling and a belief and a fact. And the distinction is important because judges make decisions based upon facts, not feelings. An example of a fact would be my child failed English. An example of a feeling would be my child failed English because of his father. So, how do we prove our feelings are true? How do we turn our feelings into facts? Well, part of what an attorney does is to help you introduce evidence and testimony that supports your belief and ultimately convinces the judge of that fact. Okay, so using the example above that I talked about a minute ago, and that is my child failed English. That's a fact. How would I prove my feeling that it's his father's fault that he failed English? Well, hypothetically, of course, I could introduce testimony that shows that English is the first period class of the day and that the child is frequently late to English and in fact has missed the class on numerous occasions because he didn't get to school on time. Would show that the father is the one who's responsible for taking the child to school. Would show that the teacher has communicated with the father on numerous occasions to let him know that the child is not doing well and that the child in fact falls asleep in class sometimes. They introduce testimony about what goes on in the father's house, such as the father doesn't make sure that the child gets to bed on time, doesn't make sure that the child does his homework. So those are examples of some facts that can be introduced to support your feeling. The best interest of the child is the guiding principle and the standard by which all decisions involving children are made. After hearing the evidence and observing the witnesses, the judge makes decisions which best provide for and foster the child's happiness, security, safety, development, and mental health. And those rulings are based upon what the court finds to be facts. In Texas, it is generally, the general idea is that it is in the best interest of children to have good relationships with both parents and to have frequent contact with both parents. So, best interest of the child is a huge topic, and there are many, many factors which a court can consider when determining what is in the child's best interest. So I'm going to give you examples of a few of them, but understand that this list is not exhaustive. First of all, the court is going to look at which parent is best able to identify, understand, and meet the child's emotional, educational, mental, physical, and basic needs of the child. The court is also going to look at the child's stability and the court is not going to want huge changes to occur for the child and will want to place the child in a situation that is most like the one that was taking place before the separation occurred. So if mom has been the primary caretaker, it may be that mom may be the primary conservator at the end of a hearing. The court is going to look also at safety. Has the child been abused in any way? Is there domestic abuse going on? Are either of the parents using alcohol to excess or drugs? Do either parent allow the child to be in the presence of someone who is using drugs? Do either parent allow the child to be in the presence of someone who is dangerous, or allow the child to be a passenger in a motor vehicle driven by somebody who's been drinking? Okay. The court is going to look at the mental and physical health of the parent. For example, if you've got someone who is suffering from a lot of mental health issues and isn't dealing with those mental health issues appropriately, that person, it may end up that that person is not going to end up with primary possession of the child. The court is also going to look at the emotional ties that the child has to each parent. Who is the child closer to, and why is the child closer to that parent? The court may look at alienating tactics that one parent may participate in, such as saying ugly things about the other parent, telling the child about the details of an affair that the other parent had, or other details about the breakup of the marital relationship. And generally speaking, those types of tactics are not good for the child and are not favored by the court. This last one that I'm going to talk to you about is something that is really dicey, and that is the child's wishes. In Texas, a child who is over the age of 12 can tell the judge who they would prefer to reside with, basically. I think people get into trouble with this particular provision because it allows them to place undue influence, albeit intentionally or unintentionally, on the child. And it also places the child in a position of having to make a choice. And this is not necessarily a great thing for kids. So, in closing, I think that the general consensus is that a child's best interests are served when parents are able to co-parent, reach agreements, and work together. This doesn't mean that judges aren't capable of making these decisions, but what happens when you present issues to judges for the ultimate decision to be made? Invariably, you go into court and you want to prove that you're right and that the other parent is wrong. So in doing so, many times there's a lot of ugly, nasty things that are said about the other parent, and this causes the feelings of animosity and hostility and anger to increase. And many times parents have a really difficult time resolving all of those issues, and sometimes it takes years for them to do so. And unfortunately, this negatively affects the child. So I would encourage you to think very carefully before taking a stance that you want to prove that you are right. And you put on your gloves and you come out swinging, because ultimately that may or may not be what is in your child's best interest. I will be back later to talk to you about more topics related to our children. Bye.